The modern self-help industry has sold you a massive, highly profitable lie, and it is actively destroying your ability to actually succeed. They sell you the fantasy of the quantum leap. They tell you that all it takes is one weekend of extreme motivation or one aggressive decision to completely overwrite your reality. The timeline is filled with people screaming at you to wake you up tomorrow, quit the job you hate, cut off all your friends, adopt a brutal 4 a.m. routine, and launch your empire by noon. It sounds incredible. It gets 1 million views. It gets the dopamine pumping. But there's a cold, unforgiving logic to human psychology that this hustle culture completely ignores. When you attempt to overwrite your entire existence in a single 24-hour period, you don't create a successful revolution. You create a catastrophic rebellion. Your own mind and the environment around you would immediately and violently reject the update. Your internal system will crash. If you want to actually hit that $20,000 monthly income and build a life of total uncompromising independence, you have to stop acting like a reckless visionary and start moving like a calculated architect. You have to understand that true power is not about making the loudest entrance. It's about making the most undeniable, irreversible transition. I'm Chief. Welcome to Chief Logic. Today we are diving into Robert Greene's Law 45. Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. To execute this law, you first have to understand the biological reality of the human brain. Your brain is not wired for success, wealth, or happiness. Your brain is wired exclusively for survival. And in the logic of survival, predictability is safety. Even if your current situation is miserable, even if you are exhausted by your daily commute, underpaid at your job, and completely unfulfilled, your brain still prefers that misery because it's a familiar misery. It knows exactly how to survive it. When you decide to change everything at once, you send a massive shockwave through your nervous system. You are stepping into completely uncharted territory, and your brain interprets that unknown territory as a fatal threat. It initiates an immediate lockdown. This is why you feel that massive surge of burnout and anxiety on day 4 of your new grind. Your subconscious actually and actively fights against you to drag you back to your cold, old baseline. People claim they want massive change, but what they really want is the shiny result of the change without having to endure the brutal friction of the transition. When you try to force a total life reform overnight, you strip away all of your psychological safety nets. You exhaust your willpower instantly, and within a week, you are right back exactly where you started, feeling even more defeated than before. The danger of rapid reform is not just internal, it is highly external. One of the greatest mistakes you can make on your journey to $20,000 a month is announcing your grand transformation to the world. Social media has trained us to seek the reward before we do the work. You post your massive goals. You announce that the new you has arrived, and you get a rush of likes and comments. You get the dopamine hit of success without having to execute a single strategic move. But the real danger happens in your immediate physical environment. When you walk into your workplace and start preaching your radical new mindset to your peers, you are making a fatal strategic error. You think you are inspiring them, but the reality is you are threatening them. Your sudden, drastic reform forces them to look at their own stagnation. When you announce that you are leaving the matrix, building a brand, and taking control of your life, the people who have settled for mediocrity will instinctively try to pull you back down. They will mock your early videos, they will scrutinize your new habits, They will wait for you to look tired, and then they will passively aggressively suggest that you are overworking yourself. If you try to reform the environment too quickly, the environment will mobilize against you. You become an anomaly, and anomalies are always targeted for elimination. There's a popular piece of advice in the entrepreneur space that tells you to burn the boats. It tells you to quit your job, remove all your safety nets, and force yourself to succeed out of pure desperation. This is some of the most dangerous, illogical advice you will ever receive. Desperation does not breed high-level execution. Desperation breeds panic. When you quit your job before your business or your brand is generating consistent, reliable cash flow, you immediately shift your energy from creation to survival. You cannot produce viral, authoritative content when you are terrified about how you are going to pay the rent. You can't build a premium audience when you are aggressively trying to extract money from them just to keep your lights on. The market has an incredibly sharp sense of smell, and it can smell desperation from a mile away. When you operate from a place of panic, you make terrible long-term decisions. You accept bad deals. You compromise your brand's integrity, and you burn out your audience. The chief logic requires a completely different approach. Your current 9-to-5 job is not your prison, it's your angel investor. It's the steady stream of capital that funds your revolution. You don't burn the boats, you keep the boats running smoothly and quietly while you use their resources to build a completely new armada in the dark. So how do you actually implement Law 45? How do you transition from an employee to a $20,000 a month owner without crashing the system? You use what I call the 1% execution protocol. You preach the long-term vision to yourself, but your daily actions are purely incremental. You don't try to change 20 things today. You change one thing and you lock it in until it becomes automatic. If you want to become a dominant content creator and an author, you don't need to quit your job and film for 10 hours a day. You need to master the margins of your life. You master the window from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. While everyone else in your office is going home to disconnect, watch TV, and complain about their boss, you go home and you build the infrastructure of your future. You write one page of your book. You record one high-quality video. You study the analytics of one successful creator. You keep your public life entirely predictable. You show up to your job, you smile, you do your work with excellence, and you give them exactly no reason to suspect that you are outgrowing them. You remain a perfectly functioning cog in their machine, which keeps the heat completely off your back. But internally, the code is fundamentally rewriting itself. You are slowly, methodically swapping out the old parts of your identity for new ones. Because the changes are microscopic on a daily basis, your brain does not trigger the panic response, and your peers do not trigger the envy response. You bypass the resistance entirely. The ultimate goal of Law 45 is to master the silent upgrade. Real power moves in the shadows. It does not need to announce itself because it understands that the results will eventually be so loud that an introduction is unnecessary. When you reform your life silently, you retain all of your leverage. You are not bound by the expectations of the public. If a new content strategy fails, no one knows, and you pivot without embarrassment. If a product launch needs to be delayed, you delay it without losing credibility. You want to be the person who operates with such quiet consistency that when the massive success finally hits, it looks to the outside world like an overnight miracle. One day, 12 or 18 months from now, you simply walk into your manager's office, hand in your resignation, and walk out into a life of total freedom. They will be entirely shocked. They will ask you, how did you do it? They will say, you got lucky. Let them believe whatever they want to believe. You know the truth. You know that you spent hundreds of hours in the dark, slowly moving the pieces across the board, refusing to rush the process, and refusing to let your ego demand premature attention. You respected the logic of transition, and because you respected the transition, you secured the throne. In my book, Chief Logic 50 Quotes for a Life of Purpose and Power, I have curated 50 independent quotes that serve as the foundational architecture for this exact kind of mental discipline. True power requires the emotional control to delay your gratification. It requires the maturity to sit in the tension of your current reality while methodically building the bridge to your new one. You can't force a new standard onto your life before you have built the infrastructure to support it. If you have the book, open it up to the journaling section right now. I want you to be brutally honest with yourself. What is one massive, radical change you are currently trying to force into your life that is causing you constant burnout and frustration? Write that massive goal down, and then right beneath it, break that massive goal down into a silent 1% daily habit. What is the smallest, most invisible action you can take today that moves you forward without triggering the alarm? Find that action and execute it in the dark. Think on that. Stay sharp, stay grounded.